right, guys, welcome to one more round. Today, I'm very excited. This is our first virtual one I've ever done, but I've got Natty, who has known my partner Matt for some time now, and Matt kept bragging on how cool this guy is. I'm like, man, I can't wait to pick his brain. But Natty, you're a physical therapist, and I don't want to generalize that, but tell me a little bit about your career and what you do. How did you get started?
Yeah. Hey, first off, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm being on your podcast. Matt's a great guy. So I'm happy he's actually connected us together. So I'm really excited to be on here. So a little bit about myself. So, my name is Dr. Natty Bandasak. I am a physical therapist. I am also a healthcare entrepreneur. I own my own, physical therapy practice. And, my career was always in health and wellness, right? I started off as a personal trainer, as a strength coach, as a CrossFit coach. And I always had a love for fitness and movement. And in 2012, when I graduated my undergrad from University of Maryland in kinesiology, I ended up, injuring my back to the point where I was so debilitating that I couldn't walk for like 2 weeks. I was crawling up and down the stairs. And luckily for me, I found physical therapy, and it helped me rehab my way back to actually being able to go back to competing in CrossFit and weightlifting. And at that point, I had like an epiphany moment where it's like, wow, this is really cool. Like I was able to go from a place of not being able to do anything at all to now look at me. I'm able to go back to doing the things that I love, right? Which is being active. I was like, I always help people with their fitness and their weight loss and all these things. But when they get hurt, I was not able to help them. So I wonder if I can just go down this route. Like if I know how to get people stronger, I know how to get people quicker. If I get to help them when they're in pain, like how cool would that be? Now I have a complete view of the whole spectrum. So I started looking to PT school, taking some courses that I needed to take. And then I applied to a PT school, which is Dominican College in New York, 10 minutes down the road from where I live at my parents' house. Luckily for me, I got in. And from there, I just started pursuing a higher career. And hang on one second. I got my little guy coming here to say hello. He likes to do podcasts.
Oh, perfect.
So the perk of having your own practice is that you get to bring your dog. So as I was saying, so I graduated in 2016 from PT school, and I couldn't wait. I mean, I could tell, I can tell you guys like the excitement that I had when I passed my board exam, and I was like, I can't wait to help people. Like, I'm so excited. I want to work with athletes. I want to help people that was just like me, that kind of lost hope a little bit when they got injured. Mm-hmm. And I want to be able to help them get back that hope and start moving again. So, that's how I got into physical therapy. And the career that I took was a big corporate job, seeing a lot of patients. And if anyone listening to this, and if you have been to PT before, it's still the standard today that, the physical therapist would see 2 to 3, sometimes in 4 patients per hour, just because the reimbursement rate in healthcare is so poor that the big corporation, in order for them to make profit, they need to go with the high volume model,
turn and burn,
for them to make profit.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in that setting for about 18 months. And I brand myself as the sport guy, right? So I started working with high school, college athletes, active adult, people who just want to move. And because of that, because it's what my passion is, that I burned myself out extremely quickly because I was seeing 3 to 4 patients an hour. So everything that come out was coming out from my own expense. And I knew this is the part where it kills me, because I love the field so much. I gave everything that I had, but it came at my own personal expense. So I was so burned out. I didn't even give them the best care I could, just because I was so bound down by the time restriction. And then from there, I realized like, hey, there's got to be a better way. And that's when I started looking around. There weren't much out there. Like there weren't a one-on-one model like we used to have in personal training. So I was like, well, why don't I just do that? If I do the one-on-one model that I did with personal training with physical therapy, I'm sure my patient would get way better outcome. So I just started venture off, In 2018, I started my own practice, Myokinetic Physical Therapy and Performance. And now we just rebranded to add acupuncture in there because now we started adding another spectrum of healthcare in there. And since then, we've just been working with athletes, active adult people who just value their health so much, and give them an opportunity to regain hope and have a team of clinicians that truly care about them and their goals, right? Because the problem with the healthcare system is that insurance company dictates when the care stop, and usually the care stop when the patient only reach 50% of their goals, right? So as soon as you can go up and down the stair, your insurance would then tell you like, hey, hey, Josh, you're done. You're done with PT. That's it. We're not going to pay for it anymore.
Yeah,
right. And
that's terrible. I mean, it's a broken system, to be honest
yeah,
with you.
it is a broken system. But yesterday I posted on my social media that they did a profit summary of how much all the big corporation health insurance system made last year. And they were making 200 millions every single company in profit.
Oh,
Yep. So you can't tell me that the insurance system was created for the patient or for us. It was not.
absolutely not. It is 100% created to make profit, and the patients are just how they make profit. And the more they can churn through, and the more time. Yeah, it's sad because they don't have the same love for the field like you do. You know, some big corporations like you actually care, obviously, why you're passionate. You went down a completely different road. And you said you didn't see a lot of businesses like yours around, right? Doing like that one-on-one physical therapy.
No, at that time, the standard was just 3 to 4 patients an hour. And that's when I knew I had to like venture out and start my own thing. And, you know, I grew up in Thailand, and I immigrated here with my family at the age of 12. So I saw my parents working hard, and they worked so hard to the point where they were able to, you know, fulfill the American dream of starting their own restaurant. Right. So me watching them doing that, helping them doing that, you know, for me, like starting a business, it wasn't as scary as other people. I also did it extremely carefully. Like I slowly weaned my way in through. Like I didn't want to burn the boat, like what most people would say. But actually, like seeing them go through the formation of how to get all the paperwork in, I kind of knew that I have it much easier for myself because I can just go on LegalZoom, or I just call the lawyer and they can just form all the thing for me.
Right.
So from there, I knew that if I were to embark on this journey, it will be much easier than how my parent had it.
It's awesome. Yeah, it's like learning from the generation before you and seeing it. I was going to ask about that because, I know a few people that are in the industry that have their own companies, but the commonality is both of them, if I recall, their parents had their own business, and it was it's kind of like they knew that they wanted to do that out of PT school, out of medical school, in a couple of different cases. So like you kind of already had that dream, so to speak. Did you know you were going to have your own business when you were going to school? Was that always the agenda, or did you just get burnt out and then go that direction?
Yeah, it's more of the latter. I'm gonna be honest. The way I looked at it, and as an family of immigrants, nothing changed the narrative of the family than one of the kids becoming a doctor, right? So I did the hard work. I want to reap the fruits of my labor. So I was planning on climbing up the corporate ladder and just hanging back and be as comfortable as possible until I really got burned out. And I say, you know what? I can't sustain this. There's no way. And I started looking at other therapists that were, 5-6 years ahead of me of what they were doing and where they are in their life. And I looked at that. I was like, man, do I even want that kind of life? And at that point, I was 29. I was like, okay, no, sorry, 28. I was like, all right, I'm still young. I can give this a go. Worst come to worst, I'll come back. I'll work for big corporate. I'll just be like these people that I'm working with.
Totally. Well, and that's a good point because
yeah,
taking those risks when you're young, yeah, you can fail and shoot. Worst case scenario, you're 35, it didn't work out. Go work for somebody else. And you don't even have to be as young as you were to make those mistakes. But it's good to hear that you actually took the leap when you realize that, man, my path right now, if I keep doing this 5 years, is not going to lead me where I want to go. A lot of people, and you've probably seen it, that still know that their path is down there, but they're afraid make a change and make that leap. So congratulations on
Yeah.
doing it.
It was the path of desperation. Like I didn't see any other way out. I knew wherever I end up going, I'll be sacrificing my passion. And I'll just be doing the exact same thing, just wearing a different polo. And I didn't want that. And I just kept going back up like, man, like I didn't see my parents work 7 days a week, 2 to 3 jobs, just to then watch me get a doctor, which is great, but then not living my life fully. And by that time, I was not living. I was not living with full intention or full purpose. And I was just kind of floating along, just like a plastic bag in the wind, like just kind of like aloof. And I didn't want that. I didn't want to live life passively. I always been an active guy, especially with working out and everything else. Then why am I living my life passively when it comes to my career?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm a big believer of living with intention.
Yep.
When you're talking to someone like you and I have a conversation intentionally, you're the only person that I'm paying attention to. If I'm on a task, be intentional. When you live your life intentionally, like you're talking about, it's amazing how things happen when you're not that bag and just being pushed wherever the wind's going. You can create what's in your mind and your goals and your dreams. You can keep done. So with your practice, you've been in business now 5 years, right? So 2018.
Yep.
What did it? How did you get your first customers? I think that's always an interesting thing for me. Like, what did you do to advertise? How did you get yourself out there and get people in the door?
I'm like an old school guy. Matt and I talk about this, especially with marketing, is I am a big word of mouth kind of guy. And, it worked in the restaurant business, right? I saw my parents, if you cook good food and you take care of your customer, they'll tell people about it, right? And what I did was in my big corporate job, I just make sure that I take care of all my patients because I generally want them to do well. And as they were trying to book out in my schedule and I start getting full, they would say, hey, I don't know, like, is there anything else we can do to see you? Because you don't have anything available for the next 2 weeks. And then I would say, hey, I'm doing this thing on the side. It's 100% cash pay, but you can come see me during this time. And you actually get more of my time and I'll be dedicated to you for a whole hour. So some people, as soon as I heard that, they're like, okay, I'm already paying $50 to see you with my copay. And during that time, I was only charging 80. So they're like, oh, an extra $30 to just see you for a whole hour? Yeah, let's do it. So that's how I started building my book of business. And I got my first client just like that. And then from there, when I have the one-on-one time, and because I'm so passionate about what I do, I tell people all the time, like, hey, if you have anyone else that I know I can help, please let me know. And I also like to put myself out there a lot. I volunteer my time because in the beginning, when you first start your business, when you don't have a list of clients that you can serve, you have to volunteer your time because that's all that you have, right? The journey of a healthcare entrepreneur, like any entrepreneur, is that you give away what you have most. In the beginning, is time. And then as you get to a certain point, what you're trying to do is you give away financial resources to get your time back because now you have less time, right? So you have to go to that end of the spectrum. So when someone asks me like, oh, how would I go about starting a business, my own practice, it's like, hey, give away time, connect with the right people, actually allow them to give you an opportunity to show that you're actually good at what you do. And for me, I was only 18 months out of school, so I was still green. But because I've been in this industry, the fitness industry, for a long time, and I worked as a trainer when I was in PT school, I was able to shortcut some of my experience. And all I needed to do is build some brand recognition by saying like, hey, can I just show you how I can help you? I volunteer time to every CrossFit coach I know, football coach, some athletes I know that need help, but that doesn't have good resources, but they could be high recruits, stuff like that. I just started showing up to football camps because I love football, different sports. Like I would have my portable table with me in the back of my car everywhere. I dragged that thing everywhere. So after I finished work from 12 to 8, I would then drive from 8 p.m. to a high school football team that I volunteer my time. I'll pull out the table. I'll treat the kids, right? I'll connect with other people. And I would do that for 2 years straight where I would work from Monday to Saturday every single day until I get something I get some good following where people actually know that I can help them.
That dude, there are so many good lessons in that right there for anybody that's listening to this. It doesn't matter if they're in your field or not. If you will give your time and show people how good you are, because I used to do this so I started my original company, Aftershock Digital, back in 2018, right? And again, nobody knew who I was. I knew marketing pretty well, but I was just kind of going out on my own shingle, so to speak. And dude, I did so much stuff for free just to show people that no, I'm really good. I can through your doors. I can get leads coming, your phone's ringing. But like a lot of people aren't willing to do that. It's okay to give your time and your energy and your because it all comes back, I believe. There's a universal principle of, it all comes back with putting out good stuff. So that's commendable. That's amazing. It's a good way to get things going. So and I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I wanted to hit on that point.
No,
So
I
started to
I,
grow.
I think the I think that another point is that sometimes when you're starting out, you get to see other people in a different phase of their journey, right? So when you're starting out, let's say you're at the first step of your roadmap, right? Someone else might be on the fifth step of their roadmap. And us as human beings, what we're trying to bypass the first four steps to get to the fifth. So then they just they try to do what people are doing on the fifth step, right? And what they do in the fifth step, you did not earn that, and you didn't have the repetition for that. And what I'm trying to do is I know I need to get to the fifth step. All I do is I have to do the work. How do I get through from the first one to the fifth one as fast as possible, right? And I tell people all the time, I was like, what I do now, like don't mimic me. We're in a totally different thing, right? It's like me trying to. I used to swim competitively, but I was okay. But I'm not gonna go in and mimic Michael Phelps' routine because like he has way more time under tension. He has way more reps, way more mistake, right? Underneath him, way more experience. So I can't do what he does. We can have the same training program, but our experience vastly different.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it's the thousands upon thousands of reps. It's like, you're not going to throw a little leaguer out there in the big leagues to try to hit off, 100-mile-an-hour fastball. There's not a chance they're going to get touch that ball because they haven't had the reps. Now, give them 15 years of the thousands upon thousands of reps, and if they become good, then they can go in there. But I agree with you, and I see it. It's kind of our social media world today. I see all these gurus and coaches and all this kind of stuff, and I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. Some of them might be making great money. Most of them probably are fabricating a lot of what they're doing and have absolutely no real world experience to get from point 1 to 5, but they're pretending they're at level 5, right? And it's just kind of the thought process of today, and it's sad. I mean, hard work really is a real thing. It will get you everything you want to do, as long as number one you have an end in mind of what you want to do, and then you back it up like you're talking about. If you're taking steps, step one, like you're starting a business. Step one is you got to be really good at whatever your service and product is. Step two, get customers. How do I get customers? And then you work on that. And you set sales goals. And you set, these types of things to where now you can track and you're always moving towards something. But I'm with you. I see a lot of people trying to jump from 1 to 5. It's like, dude, just trust the process. Understand anything that you're going to do take a decade. That's just the way it works.
Yeah, and since you're a marketing guy, you can be like Gandalf of marketing, right? A great wizard of marketing. But if someone have a terrible product or service, you can't outmarket that. It's the what I really take pride in is the quality of service, experience, the outcome that we provide to our patients, and that's what really compound effect and grow my company. I cannot stand behind anything that is less than excellent, and because of that, that's how we were able to grow, from 0 to 7-figure within 4 years. In an out network practice, right, and still staying true to our core value, which is providing the highest care through one-on-one, interaction with the patient.
That's exactly it. Your service is excellence, and since it's excellence, people talk about it. And congrats on that 4 years. I mean, that's a lot less time than people think. Most people would take 10 years to do something like that. So let's get into some of the actual physical therapy stuff. I'm curious. So what types of ailments do you treat the most? Do you see most often, and how can people avoid some of these things?
Okay. Excellent question. So again, the clinic that I built, Myokinetic Physical Therapy and Performance and Acupuncture, is the way I like to say it's built for athletes by athletes. So, I like to consider myself as an athlete. I'm turning 35 now. I'm not as competitive as I used to be, but in my head, I'm still trying to be that athletic version of myself at the age of 35, right? I have this saying with my buddy in high school. We work out together twice a week. All we're trying to do is be the 1 percentile of our age group. How do we stay at that 1 percentile physically, mentally, spiritually, right? And that's we use the term athletes a lot. We don't really refer to patient as patient because everyone's coming here have an ideal version of themselves, and that's usually begin with some sort of physical attribute that they want to get into, right? So the people that we work with the most are someone who are movement driven, that want to get from point A to point B. Point being a transform, a better version of themselves. So whether we have a high school kid that is going to go play 4 years in a D1 college, or we have a pro guys who are looking to be a pro bowler, right? Or another pro guy who's looking to just retire and have some of the best last career of his life. Or it could just be someone like you who like to just play aggressive pickleball and want to just beat all his friend, right? Something like that. Like we all chasing something. And I think if you're a competitive person, you can't turn that off. So the place was built upon that foundation. And I did it meticulously by visiting as many high-end facility as possible before I started building this out. So I would go to where all the pros go in Texas, in Phoenix, and all of these places. And then from there, I say, okay, here's what they're doing. All right, how do I make that available to people like you and I?
Yeah.
Someone who view our health, want to be treated by the best, want to be that version of ourselves, want to keep pursuing excellence all the time. So that's where the concept of the clinic come from. And most injury that we see are traumatic season-ending injuries. So something like an ACL tear, a UCL tear that require Tommy John surgery, right? Hip labrum, shoulder labrum, things that will sideline you and really take your identity away. And I think that's the biggest part that we do well to serve our clients, our patient, is that we understand the psychological impact of what traumatic injury can do to them as an individual, their identity, right? So my wife's a psychologist, so I talk to her about this a lot, where we all, like Maslow hierarchy of needs, right? Self-actualization is based upon our needs, and we need different kind of needs. Most of the time for us is we have our physical needs, right? We have our shelter, our food, and everything else, but we need self-esteem. And self-esteem come from your ability to provide value to people around you and to yourself. If you're an athlete, and especially if you're a high school athlete and you play soccer, for example, you are contributing to your team. But what happened if you get an ACL tear and that identity is taken away from you? Now, who are you? Right? You kind of have like some sort of like a rug pull underneath you. And now you have to kind of figure out like, wow, who am I without this sport?
Yeah.
And yeah. And what I saw the most is that in that population, we like to treat them because we have the time and the knowledge to help them, but we can also help them, foster them in many different, I guess, different characteristic of them as a human being, right? So they can come to us for PT, but we're all trying to like, hey, have you read any good book? Like, hey, what else are you about? Do you like to cook? What are you going to do? And to be able to see that transformation process to me is extremely impactful. Some of the cool stuff that we just add in is we start doing pelvic floor physical therapy for new moms, right? And again, if anyone listening to this have any kids, you know that you take on a role of a parent is different, right? You have to be selfless in some way. But what that means is that you have to put yourself kind of in the backseat of your child. What we're trying to do is like, all right, how do we make sure that for 1 hour a day, when you come in here, you get to put yourself first, so that way you can be a better version of yourself. And I say this is giving birth is such a traumatic event. It is kind of rare to see that they don't recommend physical therapy before and after that whole event. So we always try to go help the underserved population as much as we can.
Love it. Love it. So now, do you offer physical therapy for people that are pregnant and before and after?
Yeah. So now, like, that was always been one of my mission, is how do I help underserved populations? So the first one was always ACL athlete that suffer ACL tear, right? Because that's a year-long commitment. And most people say they do sport PT, but they don't really, because they don't understand the demands of the sport and what it needs to be done, and the psychological component that you need to, to go back to the field. So that's the first thing we tackle. The second thing we tackle is, okay, active adult. How do we treat active adult who identify as an athlete, treat them as an athlete? That's always underserved, right? Because people don't get it. Like, if you're competitive, you want to play pickup basketball, if your PT doesn't do that, they can never relate to you. But fortunately for us, we can relate to that, right? And then lastly, mother. That's someone that always put themselves last, right? Yeah. Now all we're trying to do is shift the narrative. It's like, hey, you don't have to put yourself last. You can put yourself first. Just like every time when you go on an airplane, if the mask come down, you got to put the mask on yourself first before you put on your child. We're trying to do exact same thing. Let's get you to be a better version of you. Whoever you are, it could be Nicole, Joanne. If you're a better version of yourself as a Nicole, then you're going to be a better mom. You're going to be a better wife, right? And you're going to be a better friend. Why not do that?
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, I love how you identified several markets that were underserved, and like, you carved out your own niche of what you do, right? That's essentially how you've grown your business. And I love what you're saying there too about taking care of yourself first. I see it happen all the time. And my wife, she's gotten really good at it over the last probably 5 years, been married for 17 years. But last 5 years, she started to really take care of herself. And it's crazy how much better she is for her kids, everything she does, just little things like going to get a massage, or going to do your nails, or treating yourself to a lunch and a margarita, or whatever it is, just taking that time. And I always am an advocate of people doing that, because yeah, you're better for everybody else when you're have you ever read the book by Tim Grover called Winning?
Oh, yeah, Relentless, I read as well.
Yeah. They're wonderful books, but you know how he's talking about being selfish and how selfish is a good thing? That was one chapter that struck me that I'm like, I've never thought about it that way, but it's important to be selfish a little bit, because if you're putting yourself first, and all the other needs of other people will be met, because if yours aren't being met, then you can't meet other people. So yeah,
no, it's so funny that you say that, because I always, I mean, I'm always curious, and I question a lot of things. And one of the things I always question is the concept of my kids are my everything. And while that sounds really good to say to someone, because it already put you at a higher standard, right? That, oh, this person is so selfless. This mom is sacrificing everything for her kids. But if you do that at your own expense, what does that say to your kids? Does that mean that their life is over when they become a mother, or when they become a parent? And when your kids actually appreciate you for taking care of yourself, so that you can be with them for a longer lifespan, for majority of their life, rather than being there, self-sacrifice everything, not taking care of their health, and only be there until they live to 30 years old, right? So I always question these things. Like, these are narratives that people repeat without really consciously think about the kind of harm it's doing to themselves, and the perpetual narrative that you're putting into the next generation.
That is so profound, because it is so true too with your kids. Because yes, I love my kids. I got 3 kids, 12, 10 of my sons. One's about to turn 11 Sunday, and then my daughter 5.
Oh, that's great. Happy birthday.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love my kids, but I want them to see their dad and their mom pursuing their dreams and living, healthy lives. We take care of ourselves. We go to the gym. They see that kind of stuff. They see that we have friends that are outside of just our family, that, we're very intentional on how we create money and our businesses that we run and that kind of thing, because I want them to do that whenever they're grown up. I want them to have their lives and them to give that to their kids. So I never thought about it until you said it, but I'm almost living life intentionally so that they can watch it too. Because when they watch it, they're going to do the same thing. And then hopefully it's rinse and repeat for generations to come.
Yeah. Kids are extremely impressionable. I have the privilege to work with a lot of, middle school kids, high school kids. Those are my favorite population because they watch, they listen, they're curious, they get to think, on their own feet. And, like my interaction with them, I say, keep me young because they always ask good questions. Right. And the way I do everything here, even for my team, I always say, like, guys, like, we have young minds always watching us. Everything that we do, we leave a lasting impression on them. I say this is how we know we did a good job as a provider, as a clinician, is when the kids finish with their PT and they come up to you and say, hey, thank you for everything. How do I become a physical therapist? Right. That means we did such a good job modeling that they say, this is a cool career. This is something I can see myself doing for the rest of my life. How do I follow your path? And I think if that's happening to me and I see them at most 3 times a week for 1 hour, imagine what kind of impression you're leaving to your kids when you get to see them every single day.
Absolutely.
Right. Yep. And that's so important, is that, you if you live with true intention, true purpose. And I think something that we don't examine as a human being is that we don't examine the kind of message we send to other people, because we're just a social creature. And the world we live in now is actually pushing the self first narrative, but in a more vain kind of way. Right. One of the core values we have here is do the right thing, not the easy thing. And I was talking to my team about it, is doing the right thing means putting yourself not last, but considering other people first before you make that decision. And do the right thing by creating a high impact scale, where most people will choose the easy path. When it comes to the easy path, it benefits one person, which is you, the individual. Yeah. When you do the right thing, it's impact many people. Then it will benefit you as an individual, because the positive impact that you just place upon people, which give you a long lasting effect. Right. So now you have a way more fulfilled day than just a regular day.
I love that. What are some of the other core principles you have? Did you come up with these for the company? Because that's I'm gonna adopt that one. I like that a lot.
So we have 3, and I can go over them. So, like, the right thing, not the easy thing. I just explained that. Another one we have is our first one is be on purpose. So it's just doing everything with the highest intention, deliberate. Everything that we do, the way we talk on the phone, the way we communicate, the way we prescribe exercise, the way we do certain technique is always on purpose. How I talk to my team is on purpose. How I coach them is on purpose. So that's what we're trying to do, is like, how do we live life by truly living in the moment, by being on purpose? So that's the first one. And then the last one is principles based, outcome oriented. So, I love reading philosophy book, read the Bible. These are things that, stands the test of time. Yes. Right. The golden rule is always the golden rule. So I would say, why don't we just follow the rules that have been here for generation? Use as our principle, right? Use that as our, North Star that we can follow. And we use that to generate outcome that we want, right? Again, I alluded before that in healthcare industry, the outcome is always determined by the insurance, not the patient. But we are outcome driven for the patient. We then use their outcome, their goals, as our North Star. And then from there, we can reverse engineer of how we can help them get to that point. So I used to have 10, but now I compiled to 3, and it's much easier for me to remember.
Right, totally. I had one similar to your third. And I've always said that I came up with it like a decade ago, but keep your principles firm and your methods flexible, because the principles have to be firm, but the methods, obviously, they can change. So that's awesome. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about nutrition, because I'd imagine you have a core part of that with your, what you do. Am I right on that? Do you work on nutrition with your athletes as well?
Well, it's actually funny you brought that up, because nutrition is always something that's on the map. I am certified. I got my nutrition certification last year, and it's something that we know we have to integrate it, right? And we're actually looking to roll this out. So it's funny that you mentioned it, because I'm looking to roll it out next month. Okay. And nutrition is part of healing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can't you can't you can't outwork or outtrain bad nutrition.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
That's I mean, and you're an athlete and you have been for a long time. I mean, what are the things you typically try to stay away from from a food standpoint that you've noticed benefits from?
So my principle when it comes to nutrition is I stay away from things that doesn't make me feel good.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's literally the easiest thing you can do, right? So, for example, I have psoriasis, right? So that's an autoimmune disease, and I know that if I eat too much of a certain dairy product or a certain product with high gluten, like, or even drinking beer, right, alcohol, everything flare up. So I went to the UK for a week past summer, and in the UK, you know, like everyone drinks a lot, they eat a lot of fatty food. So I was just enjoying myself. I came back, I felt horrible. Like my skin flare up. I had to go back to my dermatologist. They were gonna inject me with some steroids, and I'm just like, no. Let's not jump to that point, because you know I try not to do any sort of injection whatsoever. So I said, okay, let me go back to base camp, which is eating the things that I know make me feel good, right? So I would say, okay, great. I'm gonna kind of lay low on dairy. I'm not dairy sensitive, but if I can have oat milk, I'll have oat milk, right? Again, I love eating rice. That would be my preferred choice of carbs, right? If I were to eat pasta, maybe I'll go with gluten-free pasta, right? I'm not like super crazy about it, but I put myself up for success in some way, right? So that's my rule of thumb. Like I know that it's too simple, but I think simple things works really well. And what that means is that it's allow you to be more in tune with your body. You really have to pay attention. Again, it's going back to what we talked about, being intention. Being intentional with what you're doing. If I eat something, how do I feel after that? Right? So for me, love Chinese food. I probably have like once a month, but I know for a fact the next day I'm gonna be so bloated.
Yeah, I'm all the
Right?
sodium and the gluten and all that stuff.
Exactly. Again, you can live your life and enjoy it, but in moderation. I think moderation is also the key as well.
Totally. Yeah, I have one cheat meal a week, and it's just literally it's usually Saturday night, and that's when I can go nuts for that one meal. And that's it. The rest of the time, I'm very intentional about everything I put in my body, just because you know as you do, right? I run a company, and I got a million things going on, and I need the car to be running well. So you know, terrible food. It's like it affects your performance and everything you do.
100%. Like I'm really, so I got my nutrition dialed in. Like I track my macros, and you know, just for the sake of the way I look at tracking macros, it's like knowing how much gas you have left in the tank.
Yeah.
Right. Knowing how much cash you have in your bank account, so you don't overspend. Right. So all that's how I look at it, and I operate within that freedom where I say, okay, I have this much macros left. Here's what I'm gonna eat, and you know, I don't know about you, but I'm a big food eater, and I plan my day when I wake up. As soon as I take my cold shower, I say, and I meditate. I say, okay, what am I eating today? When am I eating it? And how much how much nutrient is that gonna have throughout the day? And then I plan on, okay, what's the latest time I'm gonna eat, so that way I can fall to sleep really well. So this is part of me being old, where like the best time for me to eat dinner is literally 5 p.m. Like that is my ideal time.
No, it's good though, but then it trains your body of when it's going to get fuel and then how it's going to burn. By eating the same time every day, it really helps your body process everything because it gets used to it. We adapt to things, but when it's all over the board, you know, your body doesn't adapt. It doesn't utilize the resources like they should. So that's a smart thing to do. I think most people should adopt. It's
Yeah,
kind of all the time like that, but if you can, eat on the same regimen.
oh yeah, and I love that. It's just, to me, that gave me a lot of freedom because I know like what I can be firm with and what can I be flexible with. And yesterday I was listening to a podcast with my wife, and they were talking about different study based on different diets, different type, right? And the problem with these studies with different types of diets is that it's so hard to see to know if the participant are actually being truthful in following all the regimen. But the one thing they always say that works for longevity is calorie restriction, right? If you eat moderate amount as that you need as fuel for you to function, you will live a longer life, a healthier life. Because most of the time now, the society where we live in, we went from not having anything at all to now at the opposite end of the spectrum where we have too much, right? We're going from eating as fuel to eating as indulgent.
Right. Yep, exactly. And it's changing those ways you see things in your mind that makes the biggest difference. Just like you're saying, now you're eating it as fuel. You're not eating it just for fun. You're eating to make sure that you have the energy that you need. You're not eating just for pure pleasure and then you feel like garbage the next day. And it's the relationship you have with food and exercise. I think those are the two things I see the most books written on, the most in the self-help world. And I think it's, to your point earlier, you just got to keep it simple. And the way you were talking about the way you eat and that sort of thing, keeping it simple is very, very smart. So what's
I was gonna say, as a healthcare entrepreneur, like we need to be physically fit and mentally ready.
Yes.
Right. So you want to make sure that you're sharp all the time. You're mentally ready. You're ready to go. So like for me, like cold shower, meditation, working out first thing in the morning, that's just setting the tone. On the day that I do those things, I am most likely to stick to the game plan that I have. On the day that I don't do any of those things, I am most likely to fall out and start eating some stuff that I shouldn't be eating. Right. So it's all about setting yourself up for success.
Yes, totally. And by doing those things in the morning, it's like you don't want to eat something bad and waste your hard work that you put in. I think that's, for me, that's what it comes down, because I'm the same way. I usually try to get my workouts in the morning. And I work out in the morning, man. It's like, I'm not going to eat that cookie. I'm not going to do this because I don't want to waste the hour I just spent, working hard and just waste it on a cookie. So it's like you're more cognitive because you're working out. It's like they kind of play hand in hand. Whereas if you don't work out, it's like, more bad decisions happen. So it's a very good point. So what's on the horizon for you? I mean, you're growing, you're 5 years in. What do you see your company going in the next couple of years?
I mean, this is probably the most exciting part for me is that now on the day to day, I don't do the treatment as much. What I do, participate in now is the oversight, actually, coaching my team of how we want to do things. I get to travel to go see what other people are doing, take some new resources to implement it to serve our patient even better. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm trying to do, is like, how do I do this better? And another thing I'm getting into as well is, business coaching for other healthcare entrepreneur of like, how do you build and scale a sustainable business where, you can have the greatest impact on your patient, on your staff, and even sustain your own personal lifestyle. Right. Because, I've been blessed and super grateful with the people that I have in my life to help me, complete this mission that I have. And the mission for MyoKinetics is to inspire hope and contribute to the health and well-being to people around the world. And with such big mission, I can't do it alone. Right. So for me, all I'm trying to do is like, how do I take care of my people by training them up and giving them the resources for them to be a better version of themselves. So that way they can then be a better therapist for the patient. And again, once the patient come in, they feel great. They tell more people. Now we get to help more people. Right. And me putting myself out there, talking about my journey, how I was able to scale my practice. I get to help other entrepreneurs like myself, or maybe similar path as me. That was me 2 years ago. Show them how, like, hey, here's a mistake that I made. Don't do that. Maybe do this instead. Really offer them the path that they can follow. So that way they can scale their practice and be the change that we need in the healthcare industry. Everything that I do, when I wake up, it's all about how we take back control of the healthcare industry that's been, overrun and taken by big corporation, private equity firm and all of that. Because the people who are running the industry, they're not physician, they're not clinician, and they only do it for profit. Right. And again, I'm not naive. As a business owner, I need profit, but I use the profit to reinvest into my company so I can serve my patient higher. With them, it's a whole different scenario.
Yeah, no, I love that. And kind of talking about working with people directly, like doing their PT, to moving back to helping other PTs understand your philosophy, how to grow their business. That's how you make an impact. It's like that's how you grow your influence to where you have people from Arizona to Boston or to Massachusetts that are utilizing your principles, growing their business. I mean, that's cool. That's the ripple effect. You got quite a mission now.
Yeah, yeah, keeps me going every day.
Awesome, man. No, this is a lot of fun. I really appreciate you coming on today and us getting a chance to get to know each other a little bit. I'll have to make it out there to New Jersey sometimes. Before we leave, though, where can people find you online and on social media?
Yeah, Josh, thank you so much for having me. I had a great time, man. It's been great just talking to you. But you can find me on all social media. I am really active on Instagram. It's Doctor Natty, and then you can find me on YouTube. I'm actually looking to grow my YouTube channels a little bit more. So if you guys listen to this, please subscribe. It's that's also Dr. Natty, DRNATTY. And on that one, I really offer a lot of business advice and business mistake that I made, especially on this lonely path of being an entrepreneur. And if you want to check out my clinic, you can check it out at MyoKinetics. That's Myokinetics. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and also on YouTube as well. And on the YouTube page for Myokinetics, we offer a lot of exercise tip, a lot of advice on how to take care of your health, be the best version of yourself.
Love it. Well, guys, go check him out. And all of the information that he just said, we'll have in the show notes here as well. But Natty, thank you so much. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And we will see you next time.